How do we recognize the diversity present in our classrooms and communities? How do we intentionally include linguistic and cultural identities in our teaching? Keeping in mind that language is a key component of teaching and learning, how do we capitalize upon the strengths inherent in difference? By addressing these questions, we are beginning an important discussion related to intercultural competence. So what, then, does this term mean? Intercultural competence can be defined as the ability to recognize and value difference and build upon the strength that diversity affords. While our world is becoming smaller, our horizons are becoming broader. Today's classrooms are diverse environments where many cultures and languages come together. Let's explore our own perceptions and actions in order to teach to our diverse ways of living, knowing, and being. One way of doing this is through Byram and colleagues' 3 strands of intercultural competence: openness, knowledge, and adaptability. Openness begins with self-reflection and entails a willingness to explore our worldviews and experiences. While engaging in this introspection, we become curious, ready to learn about ourselves and about the people in our classrooms, our schools, and our communities. Our respect for diversity means being comfortable living in the space between the familiar and the unknown. Knowledge, when viewed through the lens of intercultural competencies, involves empathy and discovery. Empathy does not mean that we have to identify with a specific culture, but rather that we are open to engaging with diverse worldviews. As educators in multilingual and multicultural classrooms, we have an opportunity to discover new information about and with our students. Adaptability builds on openness and knowledge and turns our sights to positive action. Being able to adapt our actions can be challenging. It requires flexibility, communicative awareness, and positive risk-taking. As models of language and behavior for our learners, we can intentionally foster respectful relationships and a sense of community. So how can we support openness, knowledge, and adaptability in our classrooms? The first thing to keep in mind is that all of us want to be accepted. Developing intercultural competencies allows us to foster inclusive classroom communities. Here are a few actions we might consider in our multicultural environments. First, we must get to know our students and their families. We all know how important this is, but sometimes extra effort may be needed to learn about the experiences of diverse learners. By inviting leaders and representatives from a variety of cultural communities into the classroom and engaging with communities beyond the school, we demonstrate a genuine interest in the lives of our students. Second, let's not underestimate the power of multi-language school welcome signs and invitations to events. Taking it further, engage learners and their families by providing opportunities to include home languages in school projects. Recognize and integrate the various languages and prior knowledge students bring with them to school. Third, while keeping high expectations for all language learners, let's remember that students' preferred ways of learning may differ from our own. For example, cooperative groupings, project-based learning, and self and peer assessment activities may be unfamiliar or uncomfortable for some students. When engaging in these types of learning activities, model the process and provide opportunities for practice in order to facilitate new ways of participating for all students. It is also important to provide a variety of modes of engagement, representation, and expression whenever possible. Finally, because our classrooms are inclusive and interactive spaces, we must communicate clear expectations for respect and model behaviors that create a safe climate. As teachers, we also model skills in mediation and cross-cultural communication. According to the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, or the CEFR, mediation is not simply concerned with communicating a message, but rather with facilitating understanding between and among language users. As one example, descriptors relating to facilitating plurilingual spaces have been added to the CEFR. We might consider these new ideas and reflect on ways that we can continue to open up our learning environments as spaces for intercultural dialogue and exchange. To conclude, the intercultural competence journey begins with self-awareness. If we want empathetic, curious, and engaged citizens, we need to acknowledge that although real differences exist, they are not obstacles, but rather opportunities. Intercultural competence begins with an openness to difference and a desire to learn.
Multicultural literature has different definitions depending on who you're talking to. I think in the extreme, people think it's basically all literature, that it includes every culture. And that's fine, ideally, but then it means we don't need a definition of multicultural literature that's different from literature in general. I tend to focus my part of focusing on multicultural literature on the literature by and about people of color. I'm willing to expand that definition to include other underrepresented or marginalized groups. Cultural authenticity is, I think, hard to define and complex. I used to try to say that a person who is a member of the group that is being written about, if you will, or the cultural milieu that is being written about, should recognize it as true, should feel true to such a person. I don't know that that's very helpful for teachers who are not members of those groups. But I think you have to look at who's done the writing and, if necessary, what kind of research they've done. It ought not to feel so exotic that these characters are almost alien. Their humanity needs to come through. But you also then need to get a sense of their specific cultural milieu and how it might be the same, it should be the same as anybody else's, but also the ways in which it might be different and rich. You get that richness when you get the specificity and you get the difference. Children, readers, are looking first perhaps for a good story, for something that they understand, can relate to, that speaks to them, that speaks to their experience. But the business with the need for the diversity, for the multicultural, is that business of their needing to see themselves as a part of that world. And so I'm not sure which is more important to particularly the child readers. It may be that they're equal, that you need both the quality and the specificity, that the child needs to be able to say, I think that's me, or that's my Uncle Bob, or my mom. And for too many kids, it's not that way. Just books they're good and they're enjoyable, but they're not inclusive of them and the people that they know and that they see every day and live with. Can a book be culturally specific and also universal? I think absolutely. I think that it's within the specifics that you find universal, if that makes some sense. Um, Someone once said that a book that um, could be about anybody is really a book about nobody, something like that. But it's 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 the specifics that allow you to sort of enter that world. And once you're there, I mean, it's all about the human condition, the human experience, and humans experience life in different ways. And so it's rich to see how people do it, but we're really sort of solving the same problems, experiencing the same emotions, and therefore it's the specifics that make it uh, uh, authentic and make it universal, I think.
What is culture? Culture is the characteristics and knowledge of a particular group of people with a specific language, religion, social habits, music, and arts. It can be defined as a way of life, arts, beliefs, and institutions of a population that are passed down from generation to generation. Culture includes attitudes, beliefs, language, customs, rituals, behavior, faith, religion, food, art, drama, music, working schedules, medical cure, child rearing methods, folk art, celebrations, comedy, even mannerisms, jewelry, clothing, and ceremony. Culture provides important social and economic benefits. With improved learning and health, increased tolerance, and opportunities to come together with others, culture enhances our quality of life and increases overall well being for both individuals and communities. Within your ESL classroom and your regular classroom, you will encounter children from all over the world. It is imperative that you understand their background, their beliefs, in order to build the best relationships with your students. I'm going to start off with students from who are from the Arabic world, who may be Muslim. The Arab world stretches from Morocco to northern Africa to the Persian Gulf. It can be defined as those countries where Arabic is the dominant language. There are 22 countries. They have several world religions, different ethnic and linguistic groups, and it has the largest reserves of oil, particularly in Saudi Arabia. There are over 200 million Arabs. Arab, to be an Arab like American is more of a cultural trait rather than racial. The Arab world includes Muslims, Christians, and Jews, anyone who adapts the language. They are a religiously diverse group. Here are some misconceptions. Many believe that the Arab world is backwards and uncivilized. In fact, they're very highly developed culture and civilizations. The Arab world is one big desert. That is not true. They're truly geographically complex and diverse. There are many stereotypes of Arab males and Arab women, that they're oppressed, that they're mad dictators, terrorists. All of these things are not true. They also have diverse forms of government in the Arab world. Some are republics, monarchies, or constitutional monarchies. With Arab dress, it ranges from traditional flowing robes to blue jeans, t-shirts, and Western business suits. They may have a red and white checkered headdress for the men, or a black and white checkered headdress, or even turbans. The women also adhere to traditional dress varies across societies. More traditional in Saudi Arabia, less traditional in Egypt. They have great concerns of modesty, and the most devoted women will cover their faces as well as their bodies in robes or veils. Now, let us discuss things to do and things not to do. Please respect their privacy and their protected role of women in Arab societies. The men stand when a woman enters the room. Respect the living areas, which are different for men and women. Do not expect the women to eat or socialize in the same room as men. With women in Arabic societies, please do not shake hands with an Arab woman unless she offers her hand first. Do not touch, hug, or talk to women in private. It could endanger their safety. Do not talk in public to professional Arab women unless it is business related. Do not try and engage a woman in conversations unless you've been formally introduced. Do not make any eye contact. Do not ask them any questions about their family or female members of their family. This is very important. And you must remember that they honor and respect their family. Family and kin's honor is most important. The father and the elders dominate. Male offspring are favored. So these are just a few cultural characteristics that you should remember in dealing with students who speak Arabic or come from the Arabic culture. Now let's talk about their perspective versus the Western perspective. With Arabic culture, Family is the center of everything. The father is the head. He has the first and the last word. Friends are courteous to all. Honor is very important and will be protected and defended at all costs. Shame against the family is avoided. Insults are taken seriously. Time is less rigid, more relaxed. Religion is central to all things. The family is most important. Most governments are secular but still emphasize religion. They honor age and wisdom, wealth honored in both cultures. Now, let's talk about this perspective of the Western world, Eurocentric. Family is important but not central to the individual. Friends, core to some, important to most. Honor and shame, not important typically. Time, very structured, deadlines must be met. Religion varies by the individual, very personal, not discussed in polite conversation. Society, you have individual rights. Government, the purpose is to protect rights and improve the standard of living. Youth and beauty are praised. Wealth is also honored in both countries, or both cultures, excuse me. You must understand a culture's is based on different concepts, faith, wishes, reality, justice, and equality, and the importance of family over self. So these are just a few tips in dealing with people from the Arabic world. Please note their calendar and holidays. Also, note they have a certain eating etiquette. They only use the right hand only. When eating, drinking, offering, or passing, use the right hand only. Not eating everything on one's plate is considered a compliment. It is a sign of wealth when an Arab can afford to leave food behind. Personal hygiene is extremely important to them for spiritual and practical reasons. Formal washing of face, hands, and forearms are required before daily prayers or fasting. Please note that body language is very important in Arab culture. Shake hands with the right hand only at the beginning and end of a visit. Shake hands longer but less firmly than in the West. And now with COVID-19, handshakes are not very popular. Some people do elbow bumps, fist bumps. Close friends and colleagues hug and kiss both cheeks upon greeting. During their religious holidays, people may kiss only on the shoulders as a gesture of friendship and greeting. Touching noses together 3 times when greeting is also a gesture of friendship and respect in some Arab cultures. Placing a hand on your heart along with a slight bow is also a sign of respect. But you should be very careful with your eye contact, body language. If, for example, if you bite your right forefinger, this may be perceived as a threat or expression of regret. I wish evil upon you. In Western culture, we do the okay sign. It's a positive gesture. However, this gesture um, for another person symbolizes the sign of the evil eye. Okay, if you hit the right fist into the open palm of the left hand, that's also obscene and noted as profane. I wish you harm. When you place a half closed hand in front of your stomach and turn it slightly, it shows the gesture that the person is a liar. So you have to be very particular in your gestures. It may indicate obscene or profanity or insults in another culture. Depending upon the circumstances and the country, incorrect usage could lead to very serious offenses and cause incidents. So, all of these things you must note in dealing with students from different cultures. Please note They have very strict guidelines when it comes to prayer and fasting. Make sure that you note that it's considered bad manners to eat, drink in front of someone who is fasting. So these are just a few suggestions in dealing with students from the Arabic culture. Islam is a monotheistic religion. Their teachings and beliefs are based out of the Quran, their holy scripture of Islam. Muslim, which means submitter to God. This is the second largest religion in the world. And you are to surrender to the command of God without objection, without rebellion or stubbornness. Please remember that they pray several times a day.